Welcome to the review. My name is Kevin.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Tristan.
And I'm Remy.
And today we are going to be starting our review of Kierra Cass's The Selection series, her first book, The Selection. I'm just icing my leg before we do this.
Do you mean to do this while you're in the bath?
Oh yeah, everyone, let's just go upstairs real quick. I can take my bath while we do this.
Okay.
Are
we all right
Oh no,
there?
we can all get in. We'll all get in the bath.
I don't
together.
fit on a tub by myself.
Everyone gets a foot in the tub.
I fit in half of the bathtub.
We do have to be completely naked.
Nice.
Oh!
If it's for
This
the
is the
podcast.
nude review! We
Naked.
give our
Nude
honest,
review. Here we go.
Make your
Naked.
honest
selection.
opinions
It's
about
not
our
nude.
naked true
It's
selves.
naked.
This is the naked review. We give our honest opinions about everything.
We
And it's
bear it
real-
all.
Real stripped down.
Oh god.
And
Okay.
it's super warm.
It's really hard sometimes.
Even if we never record, I'm having a great time.
I'm ready to record.
It's going.
Oh,
It's
Oh.
been...
Today we are going to be starting our review of Kierra Cass's The Selection series, her first book, The Selection. Now this is a review podcast. There will be some spoilers, but only up through the chapters that we have currently read. And those chapters are going to start with 1 and 2, just the first 24 pages of the book. And I guess we'll start with just a really short synopsis of what we read. Does anyone feel inclined to begin first?
Maybe someone that's read the whole series does a synopsis, and then one of us who does like a week synopsis, because we're not...
It should be said that there are a couple of us who have read the series in its entirety. Some of us who are in the middle of the series
ew.
in its entirety, and some of us who are just starting.
have
So,
read the first 2 chapters
first
of
2
the
chapters.
first book.
Some Kierra Cass virgins here.
Oh god.
Just the tip.
Yeah, we're getting the explicit tag, I guess, with this one.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
And we went there.
Okay, so I guess the three of us will start with the review, and then you guys can give an even shorter review from what you guys gather. Or do you guys want to go first?
I feel like they should go first.
Yeah.
We can go first.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, 30 seconds, yeah.
30 seconds.
Do we want to put them on it? Yeah.
Go with
Are
timer,
we
yeah.
building off of each other,
Yeah,
or...
Oh, no, yeah, together.
You guys are
Tag
working
Okay.
for it. This is tag team.
Oh, I'm ready to go. Oh,
Okay, I'm ready. So,
Solo.
wait, are you timing?
and- Yeah, we got 30 seconds here.
okay, so it starts with a girl. Her name is America Singer. She lives in a caste system in what seems to be some post-World War, like like future place that's I'm not good.
Ambiguous technology level.
Yeah, and she gets a letter that she could go and meet the prince of this what used to be United States.
10 seconds.
Oh shoot!
But this selfish girl doesn't want to, and then she finds her. You find out her boyfriend, and he
he's
tells her to
poor.
go.
And her
And
boyfriend
they're
tells her to
all
go, and then she is
Time's
gonna.
up.
Okay, that was bad.
I like the ambiguous technology era, or whatever that was. That was, I think, the one and only highlight of it. But
Can
it
we
was
try?
good.
Can we time it again?
No.
No.
Ah,
that's,
shoot!
I think that's a keeper. All right, we'll do.
Okay, I'm gonna
the
time
three
it
of
this
us-
time.
Okay then.
So it's about a dystopian society. American Singer, the main character, gets a letter that's basically inviting her to something like The Bachelor. There's a prince. She's gonna go along with, I think it's 14 other girls. Correct me if I'm wrong.
35.
35 other girls.
Well, 34.
34 other. 30
10-second warning.
Oh, I need to restart. And then you meet her family, and then you meet her boyfriend. And that's pretty much the first 2
and
chapters.
you're done.
Yeah, we didn't really contribute that much, Matthew. That was a.
30
Well,
seconds is a tough time to
succinct.
have.
I was
It
thinking,
is.
I think 30 seconds
It is,
is
but-
too much.
Too
Because-
much?
Too much.
Well, no, too little. Because we didn't touch on the fact that, as of the first 2 chapters, she does not want to go. By
I
Well, we
any-
did a little bit.
If we should
Yeah,
just
that was
write.
good.
We should write
Tristan
it out.
called her
'cause you
a
can be
selfish.
like, American Singer is the main character. We meet her.
American Singer.
She's been invited
American
to a bachelor type.
Okay, we're gonna talk about all this.
Selection
We're gonna talk about
series.
all this as we go. The whole point of this
You
is
guys
to
wanna
get 30
go?
seconds succinct
You meet her boyfriend.
summary.
Wow.
and there's a caste system.
Okay, well let's just jump into the characters.
Well, you skipped the setting.
Let's just jump into the setting.
Good catch.
So where are we in the world? Well, what do we get from these first 2 chapters? Where we are?
We're in a place that was America, was the United States, and is now called, is it pronounced Ilia?
Ilia is what I've been
Or
pronouncing it.
Alea?
Oh, that one's pretty.
It just sounds like a League of Legends champion name.
I would
It
say
does.
Ilia.
I would say
There is
Ilia.
there is an accent on the E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually know how to pronounce
No.
anything?
Ilia.
Okay.
Well, we don't know what
No.
it's derived from.
That's fair.
I guess English. So
But there's an accent. We don't use
It
accents
could be
in
Latin.
English.
Anyways, Ilia, for our
Ilia.
purposes.
So-
Ilia is the country name.
Post
America.
United States of America.
Something has happened to dissolve the United States.
Mhm.
There are now a grouping of country, I guess, regions. Do we know
Different
the number?
provinces.
Yeah, provinces.
Yeah.
America lives in one called Carolina, which is again how we kind of get this post-America setting.
Plus, her name is America. So.
Is America singer. So yeah, we do kind of get that tie
Like-
into the people in this country clearly know about the country they live in and its history, and I guess there's some sort of reverence to it.
maybe.
Maybe.
The weirdest thing about this world is at first I thought it was like a lot that technology had gone down a lot, but then like just because the cover of the book has a girl in a princess dress and it's mentioning kingdoms and stuff, I was envisioning like medieval attire, and then I think it said t-shirt and jeans at one point, so that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it is this awkward, like, I don't want to say modern day monarchy system, but it is.
That is, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
monarchy. There is this monarchy set in place, and it is very modern-esque.
But so far there's nothing to hint at that. I mean, this could come later, but so far it doesn't seem there's like super advanced technology or anything.
No, and I don't think it gets too advanced.
Something like a Handmaid's Tale kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
That's
I think that's a good.
definitely-
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Like when you compare it to other YA, it definitely lacks in that kind of dystopian, heavy technology outlook. Like you look at the Hunger Games, and they've got like hovercrafts and all these other things.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any of that. Then you take to other dystopian like 1984, where there's surveillance everywhere. Clearly doesn't seem to have any of that, or at least if there is, America hasn't brought it up in any of her dialogues.
Or something like The Giver, even.
Yeah, just where
Yeah.
it's this kind of force-fed, like community in this what we would generally picture as dystopian, and it really doesn't feel like that at all. And America doesn't frame it that way at all either. Like she brings up the caste system, not so much as like we're being oppressed, but just this is life. We are fives.
It doesn't seem all that dystopian.
Yeah, it seems pretty. We don't really know if it's a utopian or dystopian society.
It's
yet.
just a post-America society.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it feels backwards looking to us as Americans because something like Parliament was in our past. And so going back to the idea of something like Parliament feels like we're moving back in time.
Yeah.
So it feels
Yeah.
like a dystopian to us. But I don't know if it would be considered something like a dystopian society.
So far, it isn't.
No, it's just kind of
A world.
this is life
Yeah.
kind of place.
Yeah.
Matthew, was it you who brought up The Giver?
That was for me.
Remy? It is very Giver-esque. Not necessarily in the utopian society, but
The jobs.
yeah. The caste system, like Hunger Games. I know both of you mentioned that. But I mean, there is this influence of the government on the people. In chapter 2, it mentions the curfew.
Yeah.
So there is some influence that the government has over the people that we don't know what kind of enforcement there is yet. We don't know if there is any kind of surveillance, but there is that I guess pressure from the government to enforce this curfew.
Kind of feels martial law-esque.
Yes, very martial law.
They mentioned rebels too in the earlier bits of chapter 1, and they didn't really have like a big impact on America. But she was like, yeah, they I think vandalized some cars for like some twos in that cast. So you know it's not like it's not like a completely stable society. At least one faction or the other.
But neither is ours.
Yeah, fair.
There's always rebels.
We also, just to mention, in Charlottesville, where I'm from, we had a curfew for if you were under 18, you had a curfew.
I think
that's
everywhere does.
No.
No?
I mean, it's at least not enforced, but I'm pretty sure it's not even a thing everywhere.
But I know
Indianapolis definitely has a curfew. It's definitely very poorly enforced.
ours was pretty poorly enforced too, but we still knew of it. We were told about it. No one really went out after.
Yeah, I remember kids in high school saying, like, take your parking passes off of your cars if you're driving around late at night, because if they see your parking pass, they might pull you over if you're driving around late.
So, I mean,
So maybe.
that being said, the curfew doesn't necessarily mean anything since we still have that in America now.
Yeah. Let's dive into the caste system a little bit more. I know we're going to be talking about numbers a lot throughout this review, and these numbers are going to correlate to the caste system in particular. We don't get too much about all of the castes in these two chapters. We do know that
About fives.
the fives, the Singer family is a family of fives, and the caste themselves are not like the Hunger Games, where each caste is a community that lives separately. It's all these castes live together in the province of Carolina. So a 5 lives next to a 2, which lives next to a 6, which lives next to a 4, and so on. But
I think it is also important to mention, though, that this is a caste on a system of, like, from 1 to 8, and the ones do not live next to everyone else.
Well, if you think about, like, your neighborhoods, you wouldn't live in the same neighborhood as someone who would be considered a 5 or a 6 if you were a 1. Like, you wouldn't.
I think the important thing, like, in that, though, is it shows, like, the population.
Yeah.
There's more of the lower caste, or I guess the higher numbers, than there are of the smaller numbers of the upper caste.
Which is
That's going to
kind
get
of true.
confusing for me.
no, yeah.
It's kind of true of how it is. There's more people who would be considered lower caste than someone who's
I think that's
considered
kind of
one.
how everywhere is, because
Everywhere is.
it wouldn't really balance itself out if there's so many people that are rich, not enough people to support that. That's just kind of, I think, how societies end up
Actually,
being tiered in themselves.
ones are the royal family.
Yeah,
Twos
so
are the
I don't.
highest
We
you can
didn't get into that in these chapters, but the ones are the monarchs themselves,
The royals.
and that is it. If you have royal blood, you are a 1.
If you're in the castle.
Now,
yeah.
I believe it goes into that within the upcoming chapters, but
But that's
actually,
it's important
it's
to
good to
know.
touch on now.
Yeah, it actually talks about it a little bit because she talks about not wanting to be a 1.
Okay,
in
Yeah,
the
it does
opening
mention that,
paragraph, yeah.
I mean, I did guess that the monarchs were 1s, but I didn't know the 1s were exclusively the monarchs.
Yes.
Yeah, so 2s would be anything under monarchs, but
The
it's also interesting to note that the
the
military is
generals.
considered a 2.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's really. I mean, one thing I thought was weird was that it says all the artists are 5s, right? When, nowadays, unless you're fitting the starving artist stereotype, when you're an artist, it's kind of seen as like a fancy thing,
almost like a celebrity
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. So
Well, when you're,
it's worth
like-
noting that
yeah.
though that 3s are models, pop singers,
Okay.
Okay.
the actual performing artists that you would see on exhibits today, whereas the 5s that the singers are, they're typically more of the bands that get booked at the bar.
So like
The
an
piano
artisan.
man.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
America equates herself to background music.
But that's really all we know about the 5s, is that they are more of the artisans of the society.
So say that America ends up being a really good singer. Could she become a pop singer and then therefore become a 3? Or would she have to marry into a 3 cast?
Yes, she can work her way up because I know that in later chapters we meet a character that goes into the military and is moved up to a 2 or
Okay.
a 3. I can't remember. if
Yes,
it's a 2 or
but
3.
we don't want to get in too deep
getting
this early.
spoilers.
But
No,
yeah, we're
but
getting
that's-
to that territory. But so
That's just
that's
saying
a little
that it's
different
possible.
because with the military you have things like drafts that actually require people to move up, whereas
Yeah.
this artisan type thing, there's already people filling the niche of pop singers and such. But also, America doesn't have proper training. She doesn't have the money to get proper training. So her singing is good, but it's not good enough to be public.
And besides, if we know anything from modern music, it's that singing quality is not a prerequisite to being a pop singer.
typically also you see people move up through marriage. That's just the most.
Yeah.
Yes, so actually...
I mean, in life too, if you think about it.
America's older sister, Kierra Singer, she's mentioned to have moved up to the status of a 4 because she married a 4. Now we don't know what 4s do yet. We haven't heard what her husband does, but on that note, in chapter 2 we're introduced to America's boyfriend, who
Aspen.
is
A
kind of the
6.
other way. He's a 6.
Is it seen as bad that she, as a female, would be marrying down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not seen as bad if a male is marrying down.
So males do not marry down. Males will always keep their number in this caste system. And I think, again, it explains it in just a couple chapters. And I don't think that's too
No,
spoilery.
women are the only ones that can move down.
Yes. And in that sense,
Or
it is
up.
very old-fashioned. Whereas the female will take the male's last name as well as the male's caste.
Okay.
So wherever the male is, he's kind of stuck there.
Yeah, so it's not seen as bad necessarily if he marries down because down, as in...
He would be bringing someone
Yeah.
up, not going down. Yeah.
Okay.
Those air quotes were
I
very
know,
audible.
I
Yeah.
did air quotes and then noticed.
They said that, or America mentions that it's pretty often for men of a lower caste to ask women of a higher caste. It's just very rare for them to be accepted.
To say yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in that situation, you would have that the woman's family supporting her as well. So
She does also mention, just so you can see, or we can talk about the difference between the two castes, she talks about how Aspen's family, her boyfriend, they really struggle to even put food on the table, if there even is food. Whereas her family, they struggle to get enough food, but they always have food to eat.
Yeah.
yeah,
So wait, there's 8 levels.
Yes.
there are 8 castes.
And her-
yes,
Boyfriend's a 6.
a 6.
Yes.
Which are the
They're
like indoor
indoor
workers,
servants?
Yeah.
indoor manual labor, and then 7's outdoor manual labor,
Yeah.
Correct.
and then our 8's just slaves.
8s, I think, have been equated to...
Or are they like prisoners?
Are they like the Untouchables in
Yeah,
Divergent?
the Untouchables. Yeah, because the 8 are the people who... They're like, in India, you have the people who are considered
Oh, it's not in
untouchable.
Divergent. It's in India.
Yeah.
On the
What
topic
are they
of
called in
dystopian
Divergent?
societies.
I don't know, but they
India?
are... They're like nothings.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It's not
That is
terrible.
horrible.
You ever,
So
you ever
we'll
seen
touch
stuff
on
about India?
8s more in later chapters. For right now, they're not hyper relevant, but it does go to show that even at 5, roughly midway through, just a little bit under, like halfway through the caste system,
They struggle.
they are considerably poor.
Yeah.
I don't understand how these artists have more money than the services that need more. It seemingly is not paying attention, and or probably maybe intentionally, to like supply and demand, right? Like
Well, they
these are-
actually do hit on that.
okay,
At
later.
at the very end of the chapter, where they say that the singers get less work, but they get paid more, whereas Aspen
Right.
has a pretty continuous stream of like work, but he gets paid so much less. I'm not entirely sure why that is.
I think that this family is worse off than a lot of other 6s because
They have 7
Aspen is
children.
the only one working. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
the father died 3 years ago, and so
Yeah.
he is the eldest of the
Okay.
6 siblings, and so he is supporting both his mother and all of his younger siblings. So that family in particular is very stressed,
I
but
do
it's
think
also
a
worth
couple
noting
of the kids work,
a couple of them do, but
but not all of them. No, not all of them.
Does anyone have anything they want to talk about just about being introduced to America? I do want to say how Cass brings America's name into it is very interesting. We don't actually know her name for the first about 8 pages of the book. It's just this kind of unidentified narrator.
You actually learn her entire family's name, about the rebels, the confusion she has on certain holidays and like what the purpose of Halloween is before
Oh,
you
yeah.
learn her name. And even then, you don't have America introduce herself, but it's rather her mom calling her out, and then in the next line calling her beautiful. Which up to this point, you have no idea what America looks like in any fashion,
Except for the cover.
The cover.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, cover aside.
But the cover's a model. That's not her. It's just a kind of a way to visualize her.
Yeah. But we know that she's obviously pretty attractive.
At the very least, everyone keeps saying she is.
Yeah,
Granted,
which I would think that would, And then she thinks that May, her younger sister, is really attractive, and she knows that she looks like her.
Anything else about America that we want to talk about?
Dumb nickname. Mayor.
Mayor.
I think Mayor's cute.
It is.
I mean, it's better than America.
I know
for a
people
name.
that go by Mayor. So, I don't know. I kind of like it.
Final bit about America, before we get totally sidetracked, is the whole story is told from her point of view. Or at the very least, these first 2 chapters are a very concentrated first person. And above that, it's all also told in past tense. And so this is essentially her telling or retelling you her encounter or life with the selection from the title. And so everything that world building comes after is her voice in it. And I think that that's really important because you kind of see her internally in her thought process before you learn anything really about her. And then most of chapter 2 goes into how other people see her and the kind of pressures in that. And it was just an interesting way to develop the character where the first thing she does is she's having a fight with her mom. And then that brings into her dealings with the rest of her family, and then with Aspen, all strictly from her point of view and locked in that. And I think that was just a really cool way to bring her about in relevance in the story.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because it makes a lot more sense when you think about it in that way, with why her name wouldn't come up until the 8th chapter and why she wouldn't talk about how beautiful she is, because it's flavored in her voice and her tone. And that's not what she thought about at that time. She was thinking about, my mom's being annoying, I want to see Aspen, I have to cook dinner for my family. Like, that's what she was experiencing, and that's what she talked about the most.
Teenagers.
But I think an important thing to touch on that I noticed especially was this interesting symbolism of her name being America. So she's living in this parliamentary society, fighting against the system that should be telling her that she should do this thing, that this is the best opportunity for her would be this election. And she doesn't see it as this great opportunity. She wants to kind of do her own thing in her own way. She wants freedom, fighting against this monarchy, and I just think that that is so interesting with her name being America.
Yeah, that's such an American
Outlook.
Yeah. My first time reading, I distinctly, because I have a tendency to skip over paragraphs and then not realize it, then have to go back and reread it. And I'm told it's common. I don't know about that.
Oh, no, me too.
Oh, perfect. So I was reading it and it name dropped America, and I was like, wait. I missed something real important here. So I reread the paragraph above it just to be like, oh, that is her name. They're not referring to anything else. And I was like, oh, America is so pretty, our countryside. But her as a person, I thought it was just a really powerful name because up to this point, you have maybe not normal names, but more normal. Kenna, Coda, May, Jared, Aspen, all these names. And I was like, okay, they're on the more fun
names.
Side, but I've never met
Names
a person.
that you would see
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah, but America's was so distinct. You have to think, at least at some level, her parents were like, she's gonna be a protagonist. We're gonna name her something real.
She's gonna be a protagonist.
I mean, that's what I'd want for my kids. But I thought it was kind of an interesting way to not only is the name drop a name drop, but it's America. And knowing Kierra Cass, her primary audience was probably going to be American. So we already can identify with her even at that fundamental naming level, which I thought was pretty cool.
Is Kierra Cass American?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, at the risk of sidetracking more, didn't you say that she was religious?
Kierra Cass?
Yes.
Yes, she is.
Okay. And is that something that's in a lot, not explicitly stated in her books, but has theming in her books?
I don't think I really picked up anything.
Not in the selection series, no.
No.
I didn't pick up any. I mean, there might be some very subtle undertones of kind of higher powers
Having
helping
faith,
lower powers,
yeah.
having faith in humanity. Not necessarily Christian ideals, but just the
Same.
general religious faith and right will always outdo wrong kind of
Yeah.
undertones.
Do good, you'll receive good.
Yes, and just that kind of karma outlook.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about Kierra Cass much, but I'm sure we'll talk about her later as we get into her writing.
Mr. and Mrs. Singer. Honestly, kind of reminded me of my parents just a little bit in the sense that my mom is the one that's hyper engaged with the family. My dad will say like 3 words, and then I've spent like the rest of the night contemplating that. Like, wait. He's upset, but is he upset with me? Is he upset with something like my siblings did? Like, where is this upset coming from? And is it relevant to me at all? Like, am I just getting egocentric about it? And maybe Mr. Singer was just, had a bad day painting. And so that's why he was stressed at dinner with his, 3 words.
Yeah.
But it does, mess with America a little bit. Meanwhile, Mrs. Singer has, 12 monologues. Well, not really. It's pretty
in
conversational.
her head, I'm sure it's at least 12.
At least 12, maybe 14. But America doesn't think twice about anything, that her mom says. It's just... that surface level understanding is about as far as she goes with it.
But it's worth noting that her mom does have the ability to take that kind of thinking and push it another step further. She knows what she wants, and she's able to think ahead enough to have her actions produce that outcome.
Yep.
She knows that reading the letter in front of the family at the dinner table puts pressure on America to actually say yes. Because one thing worth noting, the selection process does provide compensation for the family of the selectees, I guess. Selectees?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So if America were to be chosen and go to the castle, her family would get paid for it. And it would be much more than her father makes painting. So there's not just this, oh, it could better your life. It's, right now it will better our lives.
But yeah, Mrs. Singer's kind of mentality about the money is something I'm kind of surprised we don't see more just throughout the board, because you see in chapter 2, Aspen's real worried about her own happiness and marrying down and what they can provide, but it's really just so that he feels like he's never held her back. It has very little to do with the fact that America might actually be selected, but that he wants her to try so that he knows he tried to get her to do everything she could to better her own life. Meanwhile, Miss Singer is clearly in it for the money. To call her a gold digger is kind of rude considering she's a 5. But I think it's a very real reality. She's the one that has to figure out, we have this much money. How do we stretch that into a week's worth of food?
My God, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Poor Bee.
The chair fell apart. Carry on.
I get a lot of Pride and Prejudice vibes from...
Like Mrs. Bennett?
Yes, Mrs. Bennett. From her mother. Someone...
I can see that.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much as because Mrs. Bennett is very much climb the social ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like Mrs. Singer is that intense. She's more of, do this for yourself, but also it really helps us.
Yeah.
Well, when America's talking about, wait, there are boys coming to see me? And the dad's like, yeah, they have been for a little while now. Miss Singer's like, but my girls are too pretty to marry 5s. Kenna got a 4, and you guys can do even better. And that's a 2 caste jump in a society where, as far as we can tell, moving caste is not only rare, but difficult. Mm-hmm. And so she expects her daughters, because they're pretty, to be able to make a 2 caste jump.
Yeah, and I guess that does put a lot of stress on America, just to be expected to be better. As a middle child, too.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really talk about... Let's talk about the other singers, too.
Oh, yeah.
So the eldest 2, Kenna and Coda. We know Kenna married a 4. She no longer lives with the family. Coda is a sculptor. He's the older brother. He doesn't live with the family anymore. We don't know any other information about him. That's really all they give us. May is the 13-year-old painter. She works with Mrs. Singer, just a couple years younger than America. I know she's really outgoing and hopeful and very bubbly. Jared, he's only 6. He's the youngest of the singers, and he has not found his calling in the arts yet. Said he's tried instruments. He's no good at it. He's tried painting and sculpting. He's no good at it. And he's just trying to find his role as a 5.
He's also 6. Is everyone in this world a savant?
Well, apparently.
Well, yeah, you can learn with enough. If you know I have to do something in some subset of things, and you try them all and you hope that you have some sort of natural inclination towards one, but if you don't, then you pick one that you like and you have to study it for a long time. So
Yeah, and I think it kind of brings us back to like the Renaissance ideals of perfecting your trade. I mean, Renaissance artists were expected to get accepted into a school or under one of the masters at the age of 14 to 15. But in order to do that, they had to produce a work worthy enough for that master to say, yes, you're good enough, you understand the basics. I'll teach you how to better those. So by 13 or 14, these artists, I guess, are expected to have a general knowledge of their subject matter in order to better themselves. I don't know if it's taking it all the way back that far to the Renaissance ideals, but there is this pressure that the family needs to get paid. Everyone needs to be working. So the faster you do that, the easier the family gets.
It's just the family trade. Like, I feel like if you're just taught anything from basically birth, you'll be good enough at it to be passable. Even if it's not like you're calling, you're not a savant.
Let's move on and just talk about Aspen really quick. Chapter 2. Actually, let's talk about his entrance in Chapter 1. What kind of a creep entrance is that? Hey
I don't-
there, gorgeous.
don't think it's a creep.
Oh
when
my god.
It's your boyfriend of 2.5 years.
No.
But before you know that,
Before you know that, end of Chapter 1,
Oh, yeah, okay.
the last page, America is climbing the ladder to this teeny tiny treehouse. There's a light burning
With
inside.
a plate of food.
With a plate of food, and the way she explains it is kind of creepy. She's no longer alone in this place.
It
Someone-
could have been a talking dog.
could
We
have
have
been
no
anything,
idea.
But then it just says 3 words. Hey there, gorgeous. Like,
It's mysterious.
it's creepy.
Maybe that works for you. I was not a fan, especially coming from this is America's point of view, which we can safely assume, like, we're knowing what she knew at that time, because it's past tense, that, like, yeah, she might have, like, suspected it was Aspen, but it was not made clear. She's not like, I'm gonna rendezvous with my secret boyfriend. I don't know, it made me feel weird.
Now,
Hey, it makes you want to read the next chapter.
it does.
Yeah,
It does.
fair.
There is a lot in this first chapter, and this definitely makes you turn the page and start Chapter 2. So in Chapter 2, we learn about Aspen.
Throwing it back to name symbolism, because I feel like it's very obvious in this book what these characters are supposed to be doing. Aspen, which is the name of a tree, and that's the first thing that came to mind when I heard Aspen.
Well done.
And trees are, reliable, strong, steady, set in their ways, not moving like we've talked about, that he's a male, he won't be moving castes, she would be moving down to him. Kind of one of those things that I think really sets the tone, which I guess is what a name is supposed to do, for his entire character, and what he can really bring to America, which I think is a reliable person, but someone that will, like a tree grows slowly. He's not gonna make a lot pretty much the whole time they're together.
But he will be
But he will always be there for
Infallible.
her. Yes.
in her mind, and like he'll never change. He's the type of person that what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how shitty the world is, or no matter how shitty things change, and whatever might be happening in your life, he will always be there the same.
Which I think makes America very comfortable with him. So I can understand her draw to someone like that. That he is her solidarity in this world, that I have a sense that, although it's normal, it is kind of, it's a tough time, because she knows that her family is trying to provide for food, his family's trying to provide for food, he is her rock, her tree.
Let's move on to talk about the other character that got their name dropped in these chapters, Prince Maxon.
Really, Aspen is the only one who describes him in any way other than talking about him like strictly as the prince. And he says, yes, I mean, we've all seen the prince from time to time. He looks like a nice enough guy, a snot, no doubt, but friendly. And that's really all the character development we get on him. But it does, like, speak to Aspen a 6 is not, like, against him. Like, we clearly, like, rules Aspen out as, like, maybe a rebel. As someone who, like, dislikes the ruling party, is like, I don't like him, but, like, he seems like a nice enough dude.
Well, not only that, but someone in a lower caste like a 6
Yeah.
actually knows what the ruling prince of the country looks like, and has somehow seen him enough to at least develop an opinion of him.
Yeah.
Whereas, nowadays, at least the Queen of England, she's all over the TV. But, back in the day, to see royalty was once in a lifetime. unless you just lived right next to the castle. But even then, you hardly ever saw them because they hardly ever left. So we get the sense that Maxon is somehow, he has his image out in the country.
Yep.
And it goes into all of that later on, but I think it's good to point out that the royal family has ties to all the castes in all the provinces.
They have a presence
Yes.
with the poorer people. Somewhat of a Marjorie from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
From what I'm imagining after 2 chapters, that they know about him, that he's been there to kind of help them through some things, and that's pretty much it.
I mean, that's all we really know about him from these first 2 chapters. They were not Maxon-centric by any stretch.
Not at all. So let's talk about the selection process really quick. What we got from these 2 chapters.
So, what does he have to choose a princess from this group of females, or can they hold another selection if he doesn't like
We
any of
don't
them?
know that yet.
Okay.
At the very least, in the first 2 chapters, it doesn't mention there ever having been a second selection. Right now, it's just in America's opening monologue, like, it's the selection. Like,
Yeah.
this is this generation's shot.
I will say it does get into it. Kierra Cass gets into it a little further.
Okay.
A couple chapters later. So we do kind of understand the dynamic of the selection as the book goes on. And even more so as the series goes on.
And I just want to get kind of a feeling from you guys. Do you think Aspen is being selfish by telling America that she should join or send in an application?
How so? Like, how would he be being selfish?
Because he says that he doesn't want to feel like he's holding her back from anything that he could get, but he's a 6. He's realistic. It's random. Does he really think that her, out of everyone in their entire region, is going to get chosen? No. Like, there's no way that he could think.
That's why I think she's really pretty. Because I think that he's
It
like,
does
you
seem like
have
it's
a
random.
shot.
But it's random.
Aspen knows he's holding her back somehow. So I think that's relatively evident in the second chapter.
If anyone's the selfish person, it's her, because she goes, her family gets paid whether she wins or not. We can tell she's gonna go because the kind of book it is.
Real
Yeah,
boring
yeah,
book
yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, but
She just doesn't go.
Well, and the rest of the 4 books are great
Yeah.
after she declines to go. It's amazing.
It's actually her just reviewing the selection.
Yeah.
yeah. But let's see in her mind, right? If she goes, even if she doesn't win, it says her family will be paid. So why not put your name in, go, eat some food, get some money for your family, sneak a little to your boyfriend, and then throw it in the last bit.
But my thing is, I feel like it was stated pretty clearly that he's telling her to go to make himself feel better.
Nah, he's just telling.
Because he's saying, I don't want to be holding you back, and if you don't go, I'm going to feel like it was my fault. So he's kind of doing it knowing, obviously she does go, but in his mind knowing there's a much higher chance than not that she's not going to go, and then she's not going to hold that against him later saying, oh, I could have been a princess.
No, I think he's just telling her because if it seems selfish, because it seems like he's looking out for himself in that way, he's just doing it because he knows that's the thing that'll make her go, is him wanting her to.
Also, let's take for a minute that Aspen is honest, and he is, as you see, what you see is what you get, as we presume. His life is terrible. He works nonstop all day to provide for a family. That he still wants to give some sense of normalcy. He doesn't want his younger sisters cutting out their extra curriculars so that they can work. He doesn't want them to do that, so he takes extra shifts. And if he really loves America, why would he want to bring her to that? Why would he want to drag her down? And so while she is set on becoming his wife, I think he's kind of hoping against hope, hoping to spite himself, that she will get better, because I think he believes she deserves better.
I think that they're in love, but I think that he's being realistic where he's like, I love you so much that I would never wish this life on you.
But also, like you said, it's random. What are the chances that she goes in his mind, right? So
So she might as well just try and make sure that she can't hold it against him in the future.
Yeah, kind of the best of both worlds between
Yeah.
it, like, helping himself out a little, helping her out a little.
So, did you guys have any questions about?
I mean, I have a couple general questions that I don't know if it can be answered if I missed them, or if they're just rhetorical and we can philosophize about them. Do we know how Aspen and America met? Is it just because they're neighbors, or
Family. Their
Family,
families
friends.
are friends.
Yeah, family friends.
Okay.
It goes into it a little bit more again,
But
that's all we
yeah.
know really is family friends.
It doesn't really go into that because
No.
it's not that important.
The way Cass kind of alludes to it is that the Ledgers have always been in America's life, and Aspen has always been the Ledgers' eldest son.
Yeah.
And I think it goes briefly into Aspen was friends with her older brother.
oh
Kind
yes,
of.
yeah, I remember
They'd
that.
be about the same age. Her older brother would be a little older than Aspen, but he's kind of just always been there.
And then there was a really interesting part where Aspen pays America a penny for singing to him. What do you guys think about that, or about
In
that
a
kind
word, I think that's pride. In the sense that
goes
America
into
is
a lot.
literally feeding him. Like, when they meet up at night, she brings him food and says it's our meal. Take a small bite of the apple so that he won't feel bad eating the rest. Because he doesn't have enough, and what little he does have, he passes
gives away.
on. Yeah. And so, he has to be this provider guy, and he wants to provide for her, wants to make her life better. I think it's pride where, like, he doesn't have the money to spare, but he wants to give her something back to make it feel like this really is, like, a mutual exchange.
I definitely just thought it was because the author wanted to have something cute between them.
You'll see more of a significance with the penny jar that she keeps of all the pennies that he's given her.
Yeah,
Also
'cause-
something cute.
Yeah, it is something cute
It
that
is
happens
something,
between them.
but there
Because this
we'll see more of it.
does it go into what she does with the penny, or does it end it with her just getting paid?
I think she just puts it
She
in a
puts
jar.
it in a
Puts
jar.
it in a jar.
I
but
With
think
all
she
the
rattles it a little bit.
she
Just
rattles
so
it,
it's
and there
sound.
are other pennies in there.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he has spare change, he does give it to her, and she can't even bring herself to spend it because it's like the only thing that he can give to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's more of a sentiment from her keeping the pennies than he is giving it to her.
I don't remember if Aspen knows about the penny jar or not, especially at this point in the book. But based off like just chapter 2, Aspen, I feel like he'd be upset that she doesn't spend it.
Yeah.
Because
I could see that.
he would want her to then like take this thing that she provided him a service of like singing to him, like basically their whole relationship, and then spending it on something for herself to make herself happy. And then by extension, it's like Aspen gave her, whatever she bought, or Aspen afforded her to have a day with her sister where they, I don't know if they have a mall, but they go to the mall and get their nails done, or whatever they do. It would be like Aspen's gift to them based off their whole relationship. And that America just kind of hoards the money, capitalist.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the backstabbing if she spent it on something for him and gave it back to him?
I definitely think it's
Like, what would first be such a pretty, like a nice gift would just.
I definitely think it's more symbolic because how much will a penny buy?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
I
How
don't
much
think
will 100 pennies buy? Maybe a candy bar.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it clear he's not giving her 100 pennies because he doesn't do it every time they meet.
Yeah.
It's only
I think it
occasionally.
is more for the symbolism of it because I think he knows that a penny isn't enough, but he, with his pride, wants to give her something, and it means so much to her because she knows it's all he has.
Maybe she could buy one of those small packs of gum when you're exiting a Mexican restaurant. You know the kind of
Yeah,
talking
the
about.
little like
Yeah, they're like chiclets but better.
chiclets. Yeah.
Not to be that guy, but for one, we don't know how currency works. And for
That's
2,
true.
we don't know that Mexico is still a thing. For like, yeah, I know Mexican food
Very
cuisine,
true.
but like, where would that fall in the caste system?
The Ilian chiclets.
The Mexican food restaurant owners, they're actually caste 0.
Oh,
They have transcended the system.
it's just those kind of things where it's like, okay, how much is the same and how much is different? that's a big thing. So they name drop China and like Ilia's treaty with him. So clearly we are like in our world, at least in some way. And, like that was alluded to before, but like it's very solid. Like this is our link.
Yeah, do you not remember her stepbrother Mexico and her stepsister Canada?
You are 100% going to confuse those playing along at home. But yeah, do you have any other questions?
I don't think so.
I guess my question would be, would you do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I don't know, yeah, I would totally do it. Even just for the chance to probably see the inside of the castle, because I'm sure no one has.
It's just more of like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
is
they
only
do
offered
mention-
to teenagers between the ages of 16 to 20
Once a generation.
Once a generation.
So you're very lucky.
to just fall in that category.
And then if you get there, if you do manage to get there, and you don't like it, you take it as long as you can, and then you throw the competition.
You like
big
cuss
about-
out the prince, make a national fool of yourself.
Well, you don't want to be a You
Totally.
don't want a target on your back. Maybe like pick your nose at dinner or something.
dishonor your family.
I feel
Dishonor
like
your
those are
family.
Two different
Go home.
spectrums
Be
here.
really bad in the fantasy suite.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Her dad does not give him permission to take her hand during hometowns, and therefore he must let her go.
So essentially,
What would the
we
dad-
all should be on The Bachelor and Bachelorette.
Yes.
Everyone on this podcast.
I'm curious about
Preferably
how the
not
dad.
together.
How would America's dad tell the prince of the country, "No, sorry, not good enough"? Like,
I don't know. He's a man of few words, so I feel like he'd. I mean,
He'd
so
say-
far he seems like a man of few words. I feel like he might just go. "Ugh."
He'd grunt at the prince of this
That's-
very
That's quality
caste
content,
system.
Tristan.
Wait, let me get closer to the mic.
Well, that's gonna be fun to edit. Have fun with that, Kevin.
getting caveman ASMR here. Okay,
Can you just turn that into like a beatbox?
I am not that talented.
Alright, that's it.
Okay, let's just end it with a little bit of how we liked Cass's writing. I know a couple of us wrote some things down a little bit. I'll get us started. One of the big things that Cass used in these two chapters to introduce this world and to introduce the plot is just dichotomy and tension. She always used this kind of like feely good subject and then immediately brought in the conflict and the tension within the same category.
But it's like normal life.
No, it is.
Like the tension happened at the dinner table after she hadn't seen her mom for the whole day. And then all of a sudden, there was this source of tension, the selection, and her mom had a very intense view and she had a very intense view, and they were completely different. And so it happened in such a normal setting over something that's so abnormal, which I like.
No, yeah, and that's why I like
You
Cass.
could relate so much to, like, I mean, I related so much as a daughter, and Remy, you probably do too, where you're talking to your mom and you're having an opposite opinion, but you just are gonna have to agree to disagree because it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, so not only is that a dichotomy between what she wants and what her mom wants, it's a dichotomy between the normal situation of being at a dinner table, eating dinner with your family, and something as fantastical and hard to imagine as a selection.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is why I like Cass so much as an author, is because she does this so well that you can just relate to it, even though it's this fantastical, fictional world.
Can
that-
you relate to it as a male? Because
I feel like it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Because it is a female author writing about a female character. I don't want to say in a very female like voice.
No, I think so. I
but-
think it's a very feminine voice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I relate to it because everyone argues with their mom.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
the
in
argument,
that
the
situation,
family
yeah.
conflict, that, like, as far as for me, like, yeah, no, that tracks. I kind of get where Aspen's coming from, like, with the pride thing. Like, if you've ever been in a situation where you're supposed to have a certain role and you just don't. In fact, you have the opposite of that role. You just kind of feel like you're letting everyone else down. Like, it doesn't have to be in a relationship, but let's say in a group project. And you're like, my strong suit is I'm a great speaker, but for some reason you can't speak, you know, the day of the presentation, and now you have to do this like subpar job elsewhere, and everyone is just more stressed because of it, and you feel like you let them down. I can kind of get that, and I feel like that's really where Aspen's come from, where he's like, he wants the best for them, he just knows he's not the best for them.
Yeah. For sure.
Or thinks he's not the best for them.
Yeah. Cass did a lot with just like if we're going to touch on voice. For me, I'm not really seeing it so much as Cass's voice, but like how Cass uses America's voice, which is all we get. And part of that comes from a first person in past tense. Is you can imagine this pretty easily as a retelling of her events with the selection, and so everything that goes through it is like what mattered to her, and what matters to America, and so like. She touches on some pretty kind of extreme things that we didn't even talk about. She doesn't know what Halloween is.
Yeah.
How many generations down do you have to go where that wouldn't even be like school bus knowledge? And then she was like, yeah, with Christmas, it's still in the same place. But that's only because it's hard to change the date of a deity's birth. By calling it a deity, you have already removed God from religion from the central part of the community.
And it's I'm sorry, just to touch on that before we move from that point, it's also interesting because Christmas is put in the day it's in because it took the place of another holiday that was already being celebrated, and it was easy to just kind of overwhelm that holiday with Christmas and keep it in the same
I don't know. I think
area.
I think that because she said that it's hard to change the date of a deity's birth, that almost more solidifies it as about religion and stuff. Because if they were trying to get away from that, they would just stop with that. If they were able to make people forget what Halloween was,
But the point is, at least the point I was trying to go with is through America's voice, Cass does a lot of world building in a really, I think it's a pretty clever way in the sense that she can just drop these things and it comes across to us as no more than just idle musing. But when you actually start to look at, okay, thematically, world building wise, what is going on? That's a huge topic that we could go back and forth on for another hour. What role does religion, in these kind of themes that we know Kierra Cass personally does think a lot about, have in her world? And it's just by using America's voice, it matters so much that it doesn't. Same with the rebels. Probably a super important thing. But we hear about terrible things in America or just things that happen where you could almost equate it to rebel culture, and we don't give it 2 seconds thought, and that's a real relatable sense and truth. But it does a lot just to explain, where America stands on it. She doesn't hate the rebels. She's just they exist.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting coming from a 16-year-old. So when you're 16, you think about being a high school junior. You're not thinking about the wars that your country's putting on or whatever's going on. You are thinking about your boyfriend. You're thinking about the conflicts you're having with your family. So you're 16 and these things might pass through your head as just general knowledge you have. Oh, there are rebels, just as it may pass through our heads of, oh, there's conflicts in Syria, but it's not one of those things that we're actively thinking about or would devote a lot of time to. But she does strategically put them there in these sort of expositional chapters to give us an idea of what is happening throughout the world.
I just want to hit on real quick that the world building really only happened in chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter 2 was
all of
Aspen. That's about it. And yeah, as much as Aspen is America's world, the setting itself was built all in chapter 1. So to do all of that in the span of one chapter and to intrigue the reader enough to make them not stop reading, it takes a lot of skill and education to do that. So I think it speaks a lot on Cass as an author.
Yeah, I just hope she explains more, because if it's constant, there's these little hints, but you don't get to learn anything about it, it just becomes two things. The world becomes blurry, and that you don't really have context for things, and it just is frustrating. It makes you want to put it down.
You get more context.
You do.
I don't know if you get a lot of context in the first book because you learn so much about the castle, but you do get to learn more about the way it works.
Yeah, so this first book kind of reminds me of Downton Abbey a little bit, if you guys have ever seen that, in the sense that in the first episode, there really is no introduction. You're just thrown into this environment, and you're expected to know everyone's names already, even though especially here in America, we're not familiar with English actors, so we don't know like, oh, that's such and such playing so and so. Like, you're just kind of expected to learn as you go.
And
Or
other
or something
things.
like Game of Thrones,
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the Game
where
of
you're
Thrones
just thrown into the middle of what ends up being a giant family versus family thing, and you just kind of learn along your way.
You just have
Which
to go
is-
with
A
it.
family feud, if you will.
Yeah,
Hey!
really.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
I guess I just have like kind of one last question from me, if anyone else has any other ideas. Mostly for Tristan and I, because we aren't already diehard fans of Kierra Cass. I've only been exposed to 24 pages of her writing of this world. Do you like it so far? How do you... Your honest,
Yeah.
bare it all opinion.
It's fine.
Tristan, everybody.
I mean, there's not much to go off of. It's fine. It was able to hold my interest for 24 pages, but that's something I actually probably give it credit for, because if I had like never read the Aragon series and you were telling me to read 2 chapters of it now when I have all this other stuff going on, I probably wouldn't. I'd be able to, but I wouldn't necessarily do it with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
It's digestible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my view on it is that I like that it's very easily readable. I think that translates. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, but something into you're in this big caste system. You're a 5, so maybe you're not as literate as someone that is a 2 or a 3, and the book is still accessible to you. It's also written for a teenage audience, so that could have something to do with it. It's hard for them to stomach something that's very complex, especially when you're spending a lot of your high school career reading a lot of weird, complex things, Shakespeare and whatever.
Homer.
I definitely still have reservations. I don't think I'm completely pulled in yet, because I think the characters seem kind of cliche as of right now. A lot of them are
I can
kind of...
understand that.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of them
Oh,
are
yeah.
fitting into, it's like, oh, a girl who doesn't realize how beautiful she is gets pulled into a dystopian society where she meets a prince, and I'm sure they fall in love, and then she'll have some sort of falling out with her mysterious boyfriend she's not supposed to be with anyway, and her mom is pushing her to do this. Obviously, there's a lot more depth because we've been talking about it for an hour and a half, or however long this has been. But from just sitting down and reading it, on the surface, I'm hoping, and I'm sure that this happens, that the characters get a lot more depth,
Yeah.
complexity, and I'm excited and anxious to kind of get that from them.
I will say, if you can get me to read a book and not put it down, that is a feat in itself, because I do not like reading books that are boring.
Well, and why would you read a boring book?
Well,
right?
exactly.
That defeats the purpose.
But I know
Yeah.
a lot of people that
Entertainment.
can read so many different types of books, and then I'll pick it up and I'll read like the first 2 pages and I'll be like, that's boring. I'm never picking that up again.
Yeah,
First-
the only reason I can imagine reading a boring book is if your friends make you read it for a podcast, but...
Okay, shots fired.
I said it was fine.
Yeah, sure you did. Personally, when I first wrote through all the books, I'm a stress reader, and so I read one book, I read the entire book in one day,
Yeah.
and it'd be the day before I have a test. So in truth, I retained very little, and it was only after going back and rereading in preparation for this that I was, instead of reading as a reader, reading as a writer, and looking at all the things Kierra Cass did, and with character development and world building, all those kind of things. This is I'm getting a lot more enjoyment out of it from the second reading than I ever did the first one, because before I was skipping full paragraphs just to race to the end to avoid real life problems. And so it was nice that it was digestible and easy to relate to, because I didn't put any thought into it. But it's also nice that going back, I can get more out of it. And so kind of jealous of you guys who on a first reading can get all that, and you've got all of us to bounce ideas off of too, because I'm sure you're going to get more out of it than I ever could have.
And that is a testament to her writing, that you can go through it surface level and be like, that was a good book, and then put it down. Or you can dissect it and be like, these are the undertones and the
Yeah.
symbolism and the dichotomies, and really break it apart, and it still be worth its salt, you know?
Oh,
So.
yeah. And I think we'll go into it a little bit next time if we carry this on, where each of us is coming from, either reading this for the first time or rereading it. and we'll kind of go into how each of us as individuals are looking at this book. But, I mean, we'll hit that next episode. I think this is a good stopping point, though.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll go ahead and read the next 2 chapters, chapter 3 and 4, and we'll sit down and do this again.
After Disney?
Yeah.
At some point.
Either within a week and a half or within 2.5 weeks.
I doubt this is getting posted now, so
No,
I'm sure
live
there'll be
stream. This
segments.
is live stream.
Yeah. We'll see how this
It'd be a
goes.
lot easier
Yeah.
to edit if it was live stream.
All right.
You don't shut the microphone. You have to have post-episode content.
Well,
Kevin.
he does. He's got
post-ep.
probably 2
He had
hours
pre-ep
of post.
content.
I was gonna have a great line about how Matthew talks about books like I talk about food.
Well, maybe. How do you talk about food?
Just like we just talked about the book.
Oh.
But about every ingredient
Yeah.
or every hot
if
sauce.
we did, honestly, if we did
Every
cheesecake,
hot
I would
sauce.
be the same.
I don't like cheesecake, so
Okay,
I will
we
be.
will not
I will
do
just
cheesecake.
continue
I am with you
saying
there.
that
also
it's
hell on my
cheese in
body.
a cake form, and that is gross. You
have
are
little-
eating a block of cream cheese and calling it dessert.
You have little.
That is gross.
You
You
have
little
faith.
thing.